It's great to see everybody here this morning. Thank you very much for coming this morning. Thanks for coming to Roundup. Thank you to AME, the organizers. We had a wonderful discussion last night at the Chairs Dinner, and it's an honor to be with you here today. We are in a momentous global time right now. The Prime Minister underlined that in his remarks in Switzerland, describing what we're experiencing as a rupture, not as a blip, as a fundamental change. And that reality has serious implications for British Columbia, for Canada. It's unnerving for Canadians, for British Columbians. We have strong trading relationships, personal relationships, family relationships across the border with the US. But it's clear we're moving into a more transactional time. And that reality has huge implications for the mining sector. Because when I'm asked about this by British Columbians, by Canadians, by journalists, I always tell them the same thing. This is a very unnerving time. It's a challenging time. But I can assure you that there is nowhere that I would rather be to face these challenges than right here in British Columbia. And the reason for that confidence is sitting here in this room today. Our mining sector will be and will continue to play the role that it has historically. It will be the foundation of the new economy that Canada is building, that British Columbia is building, and it will assist us in getting through this critical time while preserving and enhancing job opportunities and prosperity for British Columbians and Canadians. So I wanted to begin my remarks by thanking you, by recognizing that the explorers and the prospectors in this province, who work in this province, make that possible, make that reality possible, and are delivering in unprecedented ways for our province and our country, and I wanted to thank you for that. So right now, our mining sector employs about 40,000 people in the province. And with the assistance of the Minister of Mines, who's sitting right in front of me, we are adding thousands of people to that and expect to grow that number quite significantly. The ability for us to do that relies on explorers, relies on prospectors. And so the success of the exploration and prospecting sector in the province is of critical importance to me and to the mining minister. And I'll have some information to share about that later in the speech. But part of the tradition of the Premier attending at Roundup is to share numbers on exploration in the province so that you know how things are going. Now, this is a headline number and there's lots behind it, but it's a very positive number and it's very good news for British Columbia. 2025 was another significantly strong year in British Columbia for exploration and mining. In 2025, BC saw mineral exploration expenditures totaling an estimated historic high of $750.9 million, more than ever before in our province. This is a 36% increase over last year, 2024. It is one of the largest single-year jumps on record, and it is 63.6% higher than the long-term average, and reflects not just an increase in expenditure, but also an increase in drilling. The numbers are similar in terms of meters drilled. Mining production value in the province is forecast at about $16.4 billion as a result of that incredible exploration work that you are all doing. I'm just back from India, and I can assure you that the world is very interested in what is happening here in British Columbia. I had meetings with government and business leaders in Mumbai, in New Delhi, in Chandigarh. And the most engaged conversations that we had, and we were meeting with the huge conglomerates in India. These are companies that reflect $1 trillion plus in economic activity, and includes companies you may have heard of like Tata, Reliance, India Oil, HP, and Adani. When we were sitting across the table from the CEOs of these companies, what they were most interested in was two areas. One was mining, and the other was energy. Their country is growing at between 8 and 10%, depending on the state. The company leaders and the government leaders that we met with expect that growth to continue. Their number one question and concern The challenge that they face with that level of growth is how do we access the energy? How do we access the raw materials, the metals and the minerals to grow these sectors? Now, a significant part of their interest is in becoming more independent in terms of their energy mix, which to their perspective means creating more battery power in their country and coupling it up with their abundant solar resources and transitioning away from internal combustion vehicles to electric vehicles. This is not a green agenda. This is not an environmental mandate. This is a national security mandate and an affordability mandate for the government of India and for these companies. As a result, their anticipated demands for things like nickel, copper, rare earth elements, and other critical metals and minerals is very significant. They are very interested in the mine projects that are proposed and proceeding through approvals in our province, to the point that they all, to a company, ask for lists of what is coming forward in our province for the purpose of seeking equity investment and offtake agreements. This is an economic security issue for them. It is a national security issue for them. This is not unique to India. It is consistent with governments around the world, and why this is a unique global moment that we are in right now. It also helped me see the importance of these trade missions, because these companies are not attending PDAC, they're not attending Roundup, they are not aware of the opportunities, and so us being able to play matchmaker with our, including junior mining companies, with projects that are being advanced here with these giant companies creates opportunities for us here at home in British Columbia. Now, when you look at what's happening on the ground in terms of mining in the province, it's very heartening, and I want to thank the explorers for creating the foundation, the junior mining companies for moving things forward, and the mining companies that are in construction and creating jobs in the province beyond that foundational activity. Very happy to see Artemis Gold open up the Blackwater mine in just 22 months. We worked closely with them. They have announced over Christmas, Merry Christmas, British Columbia, a significant acceleration of their expansion plans for that, resulting in an additional $1.44 billion of investment and 1,500 new jobs in construction on that project. I saw some folks from Centerra who are here, and I want to thank them for their kind comments about our revised environmental assessment process in the province. This is a process where we are running multiple government review processes simultaneously rather than concurrently, one after the other. When we run them together through a project table, we're able to minimize duplication and overlap, reduce timelines, an average of 34%, but for the Mount Milligan extension project, we completed in about 9 months. They started the process end of March last year, and we announced final approvals from the Environmental Assessment Office just last week. So in a period of about 9 months, we completed all approvals for a project that typically in British Columbia would have taken about 2 years to reach approval, which is very positive, and I want to thank them for working with the Environmental Assessment Office, and thank the Environmental Assessment Office for working with us. The result of that expedited permitting process was such that Centerra experienced a significant change of perspective in what it meant to invest in British Columbia, to the point that they've now announced pre-feasibility studies about reopening the Chemist mine, a mine that's been closed for a number of years, since about 2011, a significant gold and copper play. But this is the positive knock-on effect of permit reform, is it invites more jobs, more prosperity, and more opportunity into our province. And so I want to thank Centerra and wish them the best of luck with that pre-feasibility work. Now, I know that that has not been universally experienced, especially with the smaller explorers and prospectors in this room. We had a significant shift in our province following the Gitxaala case that challenged our Mineral Tenure Act using the Constitution, Section 35, Indigenous title rights in the province of British Columbia, and were successful in finding the Mineral Tenure Act to be unconstitutional. Now, we tried hard to avoid court, but respected the Gitxaala right to go to court through negotiations, so that we would have more time to be able to work with you and with them to find a path forward. The court decision compacted the time we had available. It meant we had to make significant changes in a short period of time, and I wanted to thank AME for working very closely with us to try to mitigate the impact that we knew that this would have on the sector. This was not easy work, but we worked shoulder to shoulder to mitigate impact as best as possible. And I want to thank the AME's leadership for that. We have a new permitting process in place. And then that was hit by an interruption due to the strike. And, you know, I know the big companies, they can weather this a little bit more. They have more resources, they have more ability to do that. It's not ideal for anybody, but I know that the brunt of this was borne by small exploration companies. 1 to 3 staff members, you're out there in the bush. Actually, to be honest, I have no idea how exploration works. I picture you as being out in the bush. I picture you looking at computers. I picture you out there with a pick and a drill and doing your work. I'd love to come out at some point and learn a little bit more. But I know, because of the AME's work, that it had a disproportionate impact on you. And because I am a politician and not a prospector, I know how important it has been for your executive director, for your chair, to bring forward those companies to work with our public service to understand the impact and how we can work better with you. So the message that we received from you, the message that we received from AME, was that there were a couple of things needed to improve this process to reduce the impact, particularly on small companies. Because while we have a great headline number, the reality might not be the same for everybody in the room. And that message was 2 parts. One is we needed fixed timelines for permits so that you would know exactly when you would get your permits by. And the second is, in order to make those fixed timelines real, we had to put additional investment into the people who are reviewing these permits, working with the First Nations, getting the permits done. And I'm here today to share with you that starting April 1st, exploration permits in British Columbia will move within clear, fixed timelines of between 40 to 140 days, depending on complexity. And we will back it up with $3 million in additional funding to ensure that those timelines are reality. Now, this means more staff, more capacity, more certainty for you moving through the process so you can get out on the land and do the work that you do. Now, this is no question, has been a banner year for BC mining. And we see a very positive future for mining in the province, and we're working closely with the sector to make that reality. But I did want to pause for a moment on what Jonathan shared in his remarks and the significance of it as I see it from the province, of the fact that Anglo-Teck is locating here in British Columbia with their head office. First of all, we're hugely appreciative of the investment that Teck has made in British Columbia. The Highland Valley Copper Mine, for example, the expansion project, which was our first run at that concurrent environmental assessment process, means 2,900 additional construction jobs, 1,500 additional long-term jobs in the region when it opens in 2028. And the hiring for that started immediately on receiving permits. And I think there are 600 or 700 people already hired on that site, which is very significant for the region. In terms of the Northwest, here Jonathan mentioned they have a couple major projects up there. I'll talk a little bit about the North Coast Transmission Line. But having Anglo-Teck in the province isn't just about the head office jobs, which are important, but it's also about being geographically located close to a major opportunity that is a province we are trying to develop, which means that the company's attention, time, and cultural orientation is to British Columbia for the long term. And this is a long-term commitment to British Columbia as part of the merger decision. The last part is the ecosystem. British Columbia is a world-leading mining jurisdiction. We are second to none in terms of the quality of work that is done here, the quality of our deposits, and our mining companies work internationally and have an international presence. That means that all of the knock-on jobs, whether it's the accountants or the law firms, I always mention the lawyers because that's the area I'm a little more familiar with, the accountants, the law firms, the people who provide the equipment for mining, the expertise, the geologists, every aspect of the mining sector, we provide exceptional value and expertise in British Columbia that is deployed internationally. To have a firm like Anglo-Teck and the combination of the resources of those 2 firms internationally feeds into an ecosystem. We see it over and over again. We see it in technology, we see it in energy, we see it in an array of industries. If you have a major anchor like Anglo Tech, people come and go from the firm, they do startups, they bring innovation, and it provides a strong anchor for the region. So for the entire mining ecosystem of our province, having Anglo Tech here is a huge deal, and I am so glad that that happened. We fought hard for that as a province, and Jonathan, obviously, with his connection to the province, I want to thank him for his leadership on that, and I want to thank the people of Anglo American for taking the significant risk of moving their head office from the UK to British Columbia to this jurisdiction, because it does create a huge opportunity for us in this province that is a legacy for many generations to come, which is very exciting. So congratulations to you. Welcome home, Anglo Tech. Now, I want to speak briefly about the North Coast Transmission Line. This is a transmission line to get energy to the northwest of the province. This is a project that has a number of positive benefits. First of all, from an environmental perspective, it reduces emissions of using diesel generators for a number of communities along the line, as well as for major projects. But from an economic perspective, what it does is it reduces the operating costs for projects in the Northwest to allow companies to get to final investment decision. When you're running a mine on electricity versus on natural gas or on diesel or on other forms of energy, the cost differential in British Columbia is significant. So this transmission line will unlock, we project, about $50 billion in investment in the region related to mining and energy. It'll reduce emissions from BC's LNG industry, making our LNG more competitive internationally, and also reduces expenditure getting these things across the line. It is a very exciting project. The reason we're able to move quickly on it, why we expect to be able to move quickly on it, is we just signed major agreements with First Nations along the line that include part ownership of the line for the first time in the history of the province, so that we're all aligned in getting this project done quickly and delivering that power to the region so that the mines in that region can reach final investment decisions sooner. On that issue, I wanted to pause and address the issue of reconciliation generally for this room. I know it's been a hot topic of conversation, and it's important for you to understand the perspective of me and of the government on the issue of reconciliation. Now, first of all, we believe very strongly that in British Columbia, in a province where there are very few treaties, where we're affected by Section 35 of the Constitution Act, and the reality that Indigenous title has been recognized repeatedly by the courts, that the only path forward to certainty for major projects is through partnership and cooperation with First Nations. The suggestion that we could advance the multi-billion-dollar major projects that we are advancing in this province, and they are huge. We have 4 times more private projects on the major projects list of the federal government than any other province in Canada. The only reason we're able to advance these projects and hope to advance them quickly is through Indigenous partnerships. Because in the absence of that, title cases, title claims, litigation, conflict on the land drives up costs, drives up uncertainty, and results in incredibly problematic outcomes in terms of getting to final investment decision, as well as the overall investment climate for the province. Now, there is no easy answer on these things, but we do see the path forward. And you take the Tahltan Nation discussions that we're having in the Northwest, for example. Here's a First Nation, incredibly sophisticated partner, has been working with the mining industry for generations. Because of the sophistication of that partner, because of their experience working with the industry, we're able to avoid the unfortunate outcomes of litigation and court involvement by entering into an agreement with the Tahltan about environmental assessment and approval of new projects in the region. Now, this means projects like Red Creek or SK Creek Red Chris or SK Creek are able to move forward faster. But also means that economic returns are staying in the region and are distributed in the region where impacts are being felt as well. We anticipate even just from Eskay Creek, $713 million a year in capital investment in our economy over the life of the project. That's just one mine of 5 in the regions. So partnership and cooperation with the Tahltan is crucially important to be able to deliver that certainty and how we move forward together. Now, unfortunately, we have had a couple of court decisions that have raised questions about what is the approach of the government on reconciliation, how do we move forward? And it's important for this room to know that we have 2 very bright lines in this work. The first bright line is that the work around the Declaration Act needs to be government to government, between the provincial government and the First Nations, not between a First Nation and the court. And we had a decision out of the Court of Appeal that we'll be responding to with legislative change to ensure that our original intent around the Declaration Act is realized. This is a roadmap for how we avoid court, a roadmap for how we work together to recognize the realities of title in the province. It is not a new tool to go to court and create uncertainty. That's what Section 35, the role has been under the Constitution, and so we'll be making amendments to make that clear. The second bright line is around private property, people's homes and businesses. They cannot be chips in a discussion on reconciliation. People need to know that they own their property, that businesses need to know that they have the legal rights and the ownership rights to be able to move forward with certainty. We have conflicting decisions now out of British Columbia and New Brunswick on this matter. The law is far from settled, and it will be going to the Supreme Court of Canada ultimately. This is an area where I've heard it suggested that we could legislate to make it clear. These are grounded in Section 35 of the Constitution Act and will be proceeding through the court process. And it is not an area where legislation in British Columbia will be able to provide clarity, but be assured that we are showing up in court. We are arguing for private property rights in the province, and we will continue to do so. You know, in this uncertainty that we see globally, in terms of the impacts we're seeing around the world that are coming from, particularly the President of the United States, but not exclusively, it is a time of challenge for a lot of families around the province and across the country. But you know, I know that the people in this room have remarkable capacity to deliver for our province. I also know that the future of the province that I see and that you see, we can't achieve it without the people in this room or the people who are in the room at the Natural Resources Conference we held in Prince George just last week. Responsible resource development helps us pay for the public services that British Columbians deserve. The schools, the hospitals, the roads, the life of prosperity and opportunity that British Columbians have enjoyed for generations and that we need to continue. We must ensure that the quality of life of British Columbians is not eroded by this global conflict that is happening right now. We must ensure that prosperity and opportunity continues for British Columbians. As a government, that is what I feel our number one calling is. And I know that we can't achieve it without those of you who are here today and the others who are not in this room who work in the resource sector across this province. You have my commitment that we will continue to work with you to deliver faster permits, more certainty, and strong partnerships with First Nations so that we're able to deliver that work together. And there really is no alternative for us, and we have to move faster than ever, faster than British Columbians are used to, faster than Canadians are used to, because of the urgency of the moment. And I want to thank you in advance for your assistance with that. You're the experts in this area. You have the knowledge about how we can achieve this. Do not assume just because something is happening on the ground that government knows and endorses what is happening. Share that information with us. Share it with the AME. You have leadership now in your executive director and your chair, and we have lines of communication now that will ensure that that message is delivered to us and we can fix it. So I want to thank you for your work in building a stronger British Columbia, a stronger Canada. I want to thank the mining sector as a whole for being the foundation of the economic success of our province and our country at a time of great uncertainty. And I want to just say 3 words to you. 4, please keep it up. Thank you.